Hi everybody. So my name is Sibusiso Sishi. Sishi is just my surname. It's just easier for people to pronounce my surname. So a little bit about me. So I'm co-owner of a company called Iron Sky, South African-based penetration testing company. My main function is to be I'm basically just penetration tester. Before I did security and anything security related, I used to be a professional athlete. And went as far as the Olympic Games and World Championships. So yes, I basically brought my athletics side into security as well. So my talk is about the effectiveness of passwords, and just basically talking about everything about passwords from South Africa. And basically in South Africa, the business language is English. And what we found is that most of the password policies written by the organizations are based in English, with English examples, and basically also the systems that they use are also in English as well, and also around user awareness around passwords is very, very low in South Africa, and user education about just general cyber risks is also very, very low in my country. For most people, just looking at the default Windows password policy is like, okay, we've ticked the box, we set this up, everything should be done, all passwords should be of a high standard. And most of the times, once the organization has set this, they really don't look at passwords anywhere else after that. So what I did is I asked 7 organizations in South Africa if I could just collect their users' passwords. And the companies that I picked, there are in different sectors. So one is government, pharmaceutical, and different other regions of different other industries. And I collected 2,614 LM hashes and 170,433 NTLM hashes. All these hashes that are collected are all user-based, so there are no computers accounts in this thing. So these are passwords that somebody has created. Then basically what I found was that I was able to crack 2,242 of the LM hashes, because the problem with LM hashes is it takes the word, breaks it up into 7, uppercases it. And what I found that most people in the organizations created password of like ABC123, password, and Fish Eagle as their main passwords. Just looking at these passwords, you can see that they just look like just generic passwords that an administrator may have created and then just forgot about them as well. On the NTLM hash side of it, I was able to crack 76,588 of these passwords, and most of the passwords that I found were password 01, and then password in all capital letters, and the company name. So a lot of people use their company name as one of their passwords in South Africa to cope. And this is just a breakdown of just the passwords that I found. So I just collected them up together. So you can see that Fish Eagle 123 was accounted for 179 times. Fish Eagle and ABC, where it says redacted 123, that's basically the company name. We found that a lot of organizations love using their company names, and then add in 123 or some special character at the end to create their passwords as well. And as you can see as well, password is very, very popular as like a coping mechanism for making passwords. Other interesting information about the passwords is that this one on the list, and the other list is that users created passwords according to what the company makes as a product. For example, there was one company, so they make fertilizer, so people made passwords around fertilizer as well. And people also use cities and towns that they were in for passwords. So I'm from Johannesburg, so some of the passwords that I was able to crack were people would say Johannesburg or 1 or Johannesburg full stop as one of their passwords. And also some of the service account passwords that I found were that people or IT administrators will create a password, for example, called SQL 30, or depending on whatever service that they're using. And also, like, for example, SharePoint, like the SharePoint installer will have SH installer as a password or something generic like that. South Africa is very very religious, and they mostly follow Christian, the Christian ideology. So people will use Bible verses as well as to make passwords. So you'll find like Genesis something or Romans, and there's a lot of there was quite a few people who use passwords, and then also like the literal phrases of a Bible phrase, a verse, sorry, as one of their passwords as well. A lot of people also use months, so they'll make like whatever month, so June or sorry, like August 19 as a password as well. And keyboard walking, so people will go like QWERTY, QSZ, WSX as sort of like a password, which are sort of very easy to sort of guess. Yeah, if you have a nice word list. And these are the passwords that I was able to crack, most of them. So I was able to crack passwords from the most passwords I cracked were 8 characters of length. And the reason for 8 characters of length is that most organizations that I tested, and I looked at their password policies as well, is that 8 characters was the minimum password length that they wanted the users to have. Then obviously started to go up 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, and then back down to 6. There was one organization which said the users could create a five-letter passwords as well. So this is just the breakdown of just how the passwords were like using Hashcat. So you see like they were mixed alpha num. So those 33,496 of them, which accounts as nearly 50% of all my passwords that I was able to crack. There were some passwords that actually had a special character and a number, and then the lowercase passwords. There were some organizations where they really didn't care about how they entered their passwords, just as long as the user just had a password in. And then there were some passwords which were just basically just numbers as well. And most of those numbers was literally 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 as their passwords as well. So this got me thinking about so I was basically in Zimbabwe. I was doing a review for a company in Zimbabwe, and I was struggling to crack passwords in the organization. And so I basically captured the hashes, and I'm sitting there and I'm trying to crack them using my normal word list that I have, and none of them were working until I decided, like, okay, let me just dump the whole domain controller, or take all the usernames and take all their surnames as well, and then started doing like plays on those. And then it's only then I started getting hits. For example, the one account that I was able to get was Charunora. So there was a user who his account was Charunoma and his surname, and then basically when I used his name, I actually got a hit as well. And then this got me really thinking about, how if we converted known weak English passwords into another language, how effective would it be? How can people be able to sort of like be able to crack them and be able to guess them as well? So South Africa this is basically South Africa. And South Africa, we have 11 official languages, and the languages are based on regions. So I am from KwaZulu-Natal, so I speak isiZulu. KwaZulu-Natal, I don't know if it's show over here. So this is KwaZulu-Natal, so I speak Zulu. And most of the regions are there's a very dominant language for that region. So the region just below it is the Eastern Cape, and most of the people that reside there speak isiXhosa. And then in the Western Cape, Northern Cape, Western Cape, most of the people that reside there speak Afrikaans. So yeah, so South Africa is very, very much regional. And then also the last one was, sorry, my apologies. And then the last one, there is right there at the top, that is Venda, and we will speak about that a bit more as well. So South Africa has got 11 official languages, but for the purpose of this talk and my research as well, I only decided to pick eight of the most spoken languages in South Africa. So I picked English, isiZulu, Siswati. So Siswati is a very unique language where it's also South African speak it, but also at the same time though, people in Swaziland also speak the language as well. It's actually mostly their language. Sepedi, Chivenda, isiNdebele, Setswana, Tsitsonga, and isiXhosa. Another very important thing about South African languages is that languages in African languages, especially in Southern Africa, that they're very much grouped. For example, I speak isiZulu, but I could speak to people who speak Siswati and Xhosa, for example, because we share some common bond. They're called part of the Ndebele languages. So if you speak Sotho, for example, you can speak to northern Sotho as far up to Botswana, and inside, if you speak Zulu, you can speak as far up as the Congo. Because I've been to the Congo before, and I've listened to them talk, and I actually could pick up words from their languages just because they share some sort of words with us. So for the experiment, I basically collected weak English password words, and then I'm going to convert them into the 8 African languages that I selected, and then I'll send them up to various password cracking sites and people. So the whole process was, for me, I collected the top 19 weak passwords from the Semantic Top 500 list as well. But but one thing I made sure was to make sure that the words were accountable. For example, like in some language, like for example, the numbers, I have to disregard the numbers. Well, numbers are just numbers as well. And then another very important thing is that the Chivenda languages got their own unique special characters that do not appear in some of the dictionaries and in some of the keyboards as well. So I had to remove these special characters, otherwise, people are really going to struggle to crack them as well. And then another very important thing I did is that I made all the words lowercase. So the reason that I made them all lowercase is, for example, in isiZulu, for example, we sometimes capitalize the third letter of the word. So in English, generally you'll capitalize the first word, but in my language, we capitalize the third letter, or sometimes even the second letter. For example, isiZulu, if you look at this word here, we capitalize the third letter in isiZulu. For example, if you're saying soccer, we say ibola, which means that we only capitalize the second letter of the word. To basically keep it standard and the same for everything, this is why I lowercased everything, and then I capitalize the first letter for every language, irrespective of what language it was. And then another very important thing is that I used the special characters from all the password cracking that I did from the 7 organizations. I used the special characters that the users used for making passwords. So I didn't want to introduce any new special characters to this. I wanted to see people can figure out if they could crack the same passwords. And then what I did is that I converted those. So I made the words, and then I converted them into NTLM and MDM5 hashes as well. So these are the weak passwords. So these are the weak passwords that I selected for each language. So English is selected in yellow, and then for each language I converted it into that language. For example, isiZulu, we say, so in English it's called password, but in Zulu is iPassword. Then for each of the other languages as well, you'll see that in some languages we do share some words. For example, in Zulu we say iPassword, but in Zulu we say iPassword, and then in Tonga they also say password. So it's, there's a lot of sharing of words. If the word was shared between 2 languages, I only used it once in the research. And then what I also did is that I also represented the months as well. So I converted all the months, and then I converted them into the various languages as well. Because as you saw with how the users use for coping mechanisms, they use also months to cope as well. And then, so basically, these are just examples of how the passwords got created. You'll see there in English, for example, let me in. So let me just explain. So in South Africa and in Zulu, for example, we can take a whole sentence and make it into one word. you know. For example, let me in my language is ngifake. So we can make it, we should take let me in, which is 3 words in English, but we could just make it 1 word. So so basically some of the words that people created as like let me in, I converted them into 1 word as well. Then inside is called phakathi, welcome in Zulu. Okay, that's another very important thing is that there are 2 ways that we're saying this: traditional Zulu, and then there's like the more modern way of saying it. So basically I used the very traditional way of talking. So it's like Zulu, we say Zulu 1, which is also very hard even for me to sort of understand, because the words are insanely deep and insanely long as well. And then to basically keep them all the same, the hash cache mask that I used was uppercase, the first letter, lowercase everything else, add in random digits, and then a special character at the end. And then for the months, I did the sort of same, but the 2 digits that I end were the months, were the year that we end. So we're in 2019, so I'll add in 19 at the end. So the breakdown of the words that got generated, so there were 11. So these are all these at the bottom there, the character lengths, and then obviously it's the count of the words. So most of the words that got generated from English into the African languages were 11 characters of length, so 58 of them, followed by 10 at 50, 8 character words at 47, and then 9 at 47 as well. 12 at 37, then 13, and then it sort of goes down as well. The reason, and also the reason that you'll see that I only gave very few, I tried to stick as much as I can to how the users, also the passwords that I was able to crack. For example, most of them are 8 character passwords, but just because how my languages are set up, like just in general, some of the words would just be long. You know, for example, hello. So hello is HELLO. It's 5 letters, but in my language we say sawubona, which is SAWUBONA. You know, so just the same word, hello, same meaning, but in my language just longer. So hence why the words will sometimes supposed to be longer here that are generated. So I basically uploaded some of the passwords, for example, to like Hashkiller, hashes.org, online hash crack. And then I also asked some people that I know around me, you know, like, hey, I've created these words, can you try guess them? Basically the reason I uploaded them to these services is because I wanted to get as many people to see which people could actually to be able to crack some of these passwords. And then what I did is that I regularly checked the websites to see if they appeared on the website. So I knew what the hash was, so I'll just paste the hash onto the service, and then if the password got cracked, cool, I'll see it. But if it didn't, then I'll wait a few more weeks. So basically the password hashes were, this is just last year. So I uploaded them on the 30th of July, and then I stopped checking like in August, last year, August. And then I found that 48% of the 48% or 159 of the 330 passwords that I created, were successfully cracked between the online services. So 100 NTLM hashes and only 55 MD5 hashes. Hashkiller accounted for nearly 90 of the 100 hashes, and most of the MD5 hashes as well. So this was basically the breakdown of the passwords that people were able to guess. So 8 character passwords accounted for the most, and then followed by 9 at 28, 10 at 22, 7 at 16, and then 11 character passwords for 15 of them. When you put them together, you'll see that we generated 11. You'll see that in the 8 character passwords, for example, nearly all of them got cracked. And then on the 9, followed by the 9, just slightly less. So 15 out of the 58 of the 11 character passwords were successfully cracked. All 7 character passwords were cracked, and only for 8 character passwords, 37 out of the 47 were successfully cracked. None of the 22, none of the 21 and 22 and the high length passwords were actually successfully cracked. So basically, then the passwords. So these are basically the passwords that got found in green. So the English passwords, and these are the passwords so all the passwords got sent up, but the ones in green were the ones that people were successfully able to crack as well. And then for the months, you'll notice for the months as well is basically the same as well. People actually struggled to crack the Xhosa for the Xhosa months, while the Setswana months were basically people were able to crack successfully. Just to go back one, you'll find that, for example, isiZulu, basically only 4 words were people struggled to find, but in Xhosa, for example, Setswana, they were also able to crack a lot of them. Only 3 got found. Yeah. So basically, is that the word password was successfully cracked in 2 languages, isiZulu and isiXhosa. The word hello was the only word to be fully cracked in all the languages. Was is a greeting, and it's said so many times, so people must have it in their dictionary. isiZulu was the language, was a Southern African language that was cracked successfully out of all of the other languages, while Xhosa was the least cracked language when it came to the months. Setswana, the most cracked language when it comes to months, was also Setswana. So in conclusion, so corporate South Africa used English-based passwords, even though there are 11 official languages. South Africans use regularly available objects to create their passwords because if there's a lot of bias towards English-based passwords, because your computer's in English, the system is asking you to say, hey, please enter a password in English. So obviously the user, even though you speak Zulu, for example, like me at home, you'll still create an English-based password because there's a lot of bias towards that. Password is very popular in South Africa, and it's got a very, very high hit number as well within corporate South Africa. Converting English-based passwords into Zulu did not offer any additional protection. The reason for this is because Zulu is so well spoken in South Africa. Zulu is sort of like the language that if I meet another black person in Southern Africa, I would sort of expect them to understand my language, even if they don't. So it's got this very much of this, like we're just proud of ourselves and we want to tell everybody else around us. The Tshivenda language might actually be the better one to create the passwords if you use their special characters, because to get their special characters onto the keyboard, there was only one person that I found. He actually has a he created a file that you have to put onto your Windows system to be able to get those special characters as well. So I had to remove them just to make it a bit easier, but I'm sure if we added in those special characters, they would be really, really hard to sort of crack. Using months in Xhosa was obviously the least cracked, and I've got no reason as to why, because Xhosa and Zulu are, they're part of the same Ndebele group, so they should have been a lot bit easier to sort of guess and to get right. Then thank you very much. Any questions?
On your first slide, fish eagle was the third most common. What is the significance of fish eagle?
Fish eagles, actually, there's a company in South Africa that they're a banking company, and they use that word as one of their passwords. So so it's very easy to put 2 and 2 together. But that's the reason why they use fish eagle a lot. Well, thank you very much, guys. If you have any more questions, please come up to me and talk to me. Oh, Your question?
So,
Yes.
you said that Setswana was the most cracked language out of all of them?
No, this is Zulu.
Isuzu?
This is Zulu, yes.
Isuzu?
Zulu.
Zulu was the most
Yes.
cracked. But you said Setswana was...
Was also so highly cracked. Let me see if I can find out. So isiZulu is the most cracked word. So if you look at, sorry for the converting the passwords from English into that, not the months, Zulu was the most cracked one for those ones, and then Setswana follows at a close second as well. But when it came to the months, Setswana was the most cracked for the months as well. So taking the months and putting in 18 or 19, people were actually able to crack Setswana words much more readily. I don't know why, because Zulu, people were able to find Zulu words so easily just using like hello, welcome, freedom, hello. It really was different to see them that they actually didn't crack as much when it came to the months, but they were able to crack them in Setswana.
So is Setswana also a ubiquitous language like Zulu, like more people would actually speak it in those regions?
Yes, so Setswana is spoken mostly in the sort of northern side of South Africa. So Zulu is spoken to more in KwaZulu-Natal, so that's more coastal. Setswana is spoken far more up north as well. So I think also into Botswana, if I'm not mistaken, as well. So the two languages, they may share a little bit of words, but they don't really share all that much between each other.
Thank you.
Okay.
I'm just curious, how did you manage to get all the hashes from all the 7 companies? Did you face any resistance from them? And what was the context on how did you get it?
It is very hard because so basically we also do sort of like password checking, password auditing for the organization. So I have to get the password somewhere somehow to be able to do the password audits. And also most of the times that I got the passwords was, you could just talk to the people, say, hey, I'm doing this, But then what I did is that after the research, everything gets scrapped, everything goes away. I don't even share those passwords, but I will share the passwords that I created for the research, the converted ones, but I will never share the ones that I got from the organization as well.
One more question.
Sure.
Will you be looking into breach credentials? Because now you know that you have 7 companies, maybe you can look them up in breach credentials. You can pull out all the breach passwords and maybe do an analysis on them. So
yeah, so those passwords that I got actually did come from using like Have I Been Pawned databases and a whole bunch of other sort of databases around that. It's just that there's always going to be some new breach. So and also what I did is that for a lot of these words, for the passwords for the corporations, was that I used a lot of hashcash rules as well. So the whole process, cracking them, took about 2 to 3 months of just pure cracking at all.
All right, thank you.
No worries. Thank you very much, guys.